Hello, welcome to Industry AF. My name's James Frolio, joined by Tyler Boone, and today our wonderful guest is Rafa Camargo. He's an American comedian based out of San Diego, California. Born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Rafa's take on growing up in America is uniquely his own. His love of comedy drives his career on stage, using his personal stories and experiences about growing up as an immigrant in Texas and Southern California as a delivery vehicle that is nothing short of vulnerable, endearing, and occasionally hilariously self-deprecating. Rafa has performed in comedy clubs all across the country and just returned from a nationwide tour called the Sweet Boy Tour. When Rafa isn't touring in clubs all across the country, he can be found performing at his home club, the La Jolla Comedy Store in San Diego, California. However, he'll soon be relocating to the newest up-and-coming comedy hub for comedy in the United States, Austin, Texas. His most recent full-feature comedy set is available on YouTube now, and you can find him on that channel at Rafa Camargo Comedy and on Instagram at Beef Stroganoff. Rafa, welcome to the show,
Hey,
man.
thanks for having me, man.
Rafa, what up?
Hey, what's up?
Glad you're here, bud. This is really cool. I did your podcast.
Twice, yeah. During the pandemic, you called in.
2020, 2001. That was cool. What was the name of the podcast?
The Eclecticast.
That's right.
Yeah, it'll be coming back soon. I just gotta, once I move and I find like a proper place to do it,
Cool.
I'll bring it back. But yeah.
Nice. That was cool, man. We met through that. Then you met James.
Yeah.
James now in San Diego, but then you did the Jam the Van, and I love how you showed up. You literally rode in the back of a trunk.
I rode, 2.5 hours in a trunk in a 2-seater Audi.
Were you high from just the gas fumes? You know what I mean?
I mean, I was stoned for sure, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, you did Jam the Van, and then you just funny, man. I was so jazzed up about comedy. I mean, I still am, but like I was just like, I want to do more music comedy shows. Then we did you helped give the idea of like the big Troubadour show we did, the Hollywood Jam. So that was a blast.
Yeah, the Troubadour was awesome, dude.
Yeah, just walking in there, like it's just like the Rainbow Room, you know, like you walk in there and it's like the rugs still smell the same, the wood, you know, that was a killer stage.
I always like the music and comedy pairing, you know? It's
Yeah.
such a fun pairing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle has that quote where like, all comedians want to be rock stars, and all rock stars think they're funny.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that quote.
Yeah.
You know, and it was cool too, man. It was just like, you know, I feel like in LA for sure, and I told Mark Ellis this too. I was just like, I feel like I kind of connect more with the comedians over here because there's not really any comedy in Charleston. There's some in Nashville, obviously it's growing, but I just because you guys are solo. And I'm solo. Obviously, I got homies. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not like in a band. You know what I mean? Where we're all writing together and we're like a team. Like, I'm doing it. You know, and I kind of feel like I can. And we're all deprecating. Like, oh, I'm depressed. Like, so I just, you know, you and I connect. I was like, oh, I love this vibe. So you know, just thanks for coming on, man. And we're gonna send you off to Austin. I guess tonight we're gonna go do something.
Yeah, let's get crazy, dude.
Yeah, let's
get
it.
nuts.
Yeah, we'll have to break your no drinking rule tonight, there, Frolio. So
If we don't break it on this podcast,
nope. We'll take a swig of that in a second. But let's get some questions firing off.
So, Rafa, I can see from your most recent set that you draw mainly from personal experiences in your material. But I'd like to know, how do you know when a story is actually funny, and what are some of your best bits that you tell on the mic? If you can give them away. I don't want to give away the farm here.
Well, I mean, dude, mostly it's all conversational, and that's how I like to do my stand-up, too. I like it to be very natural, like, just kind of like... I like to tell stand-up like I'm telling a buddy a story at a bar. Like, that's kind of like my outlook on it. A lot of the stories that I do just came from telling my life story to people, and then they would laugh, and they'd be like, oh, that's crazy. And then I was like, okay, there might be material here. And then it's just about like right now, I mean, before it was a lot longer, but right now it's about like a 3-month, 4-month process for me to like polish up a story.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So
But you played music first, right?
I did. I went to performing arts school in high school, and it was called Music Media Entertainment Technology. And so we would do songwriting, recording, guitar lessons, music history, stuff like that. And twice a year we would do a main stage show in a 700-seat auditorium where we would play either a Beatles or a Rolling Stones record to the click, like a click track.
Oh, wow.
So, and we had like, if anyone got off, because we had like picture behind us, like music videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And so if anyone got off, like the whole show's wrecked. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So we learned how to be. I was like 16 performing in front of 700 people doing like Beatles and shit. You know.
So but it must have got you like a bug. Like I like to be entertaining people in some fashion.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a storyteller comic, but like I loved storytelling through music. That was like one of my favorite things growing up. And so, yeah, I pursued that. And then I had a band. I mean, that's all I did when I was like 19, 20, 21 is like I played music with this band, and like that was like my job. And then we broke up, and I was so devastated. It was like getting a divorce with like 3 people that I love tremendously.
How old were you when the band broke up?
I was 21.
Yeah, that hurts.
And then I just couldn't pick up a guitar. Like I just felt so devastated that I couldn't play music anymore. And now I'm kind of happy because now I get to just enjoy music. Totally. You know, it didn't like I didn't get into the industry and it's like, oh, I fucking hate this. It's like now I get to just be a spectator and enjoy it. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, you're a guitar player too, right?
I only learned how to play guitar so I could write my own songs.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was the lead singer in the band. That was my thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is there still anything like on Spotify of it?
Not Spotify. We have an album out on Bandcamp. We actually broke up the day our album came out, so it went straight to Bandcamp because we didn't do shit with it. And but yeah. I wrote most of the songs.
Cool.
Performed them. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you've been doing comedy for
6 years.
6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
How did you start out doing that, and what was your first big opportunity? What set you apart from the crowd, you think? Or is that still happening?
What do you mean by big opportunity?
Like, what was the moment where you were like, I'm going to be a comedian?
Okay. Well, I started comedy at this little dive bar across from the Domino's Pizza I was working at when I was 23 years old. I was taking the bus 3 hours a day each way. So I was like, it's like a 6 hours, you know what I mean, to like get to work. And there was this bar across the street that I started going there to play pool, and I would go and trade them leftover pizzas for free booze.
Nice.
And yeah, and then I became really like good friends with the person who ran the bar. And then I was there like one weekend, and they were so swamped that I offered to help like do dishes and bar back and stuff like that. And then they hired me, and my first shift that I worked was a Tuesday night, and that was their open mic comedy night. So I used to watch the open micers through a slit in the kitchen, you know, while I was making food. And the host of the mic, Dave Yates, who's like, you know, he helped me out tremendously in the beginning. He saw me every time watching through the slit in the kitchen. And then one day he came up to me, he's like, hey man, you ever wanted to do this? And I was like, my whole life. And he was like, promise me you'll come back next week and do 5 minutes. And I promised him. And I went back, and I went up in front of 2 people. One of them was asleep. And yeah, I bombed really hard. And the host of the mic came up to me, and he was just like, hey man, that's the worst you'll ever be. Just keep going. And here I am 6 years later, you know?
Nice.
That's so encouraging.
But as far as like big like when I've thought like, I the first 3 years were really rough, and then around like 3 years in, I started getting booked on a lot of shows, and I started progressing, and I just felt like I think I can do this. I still haven't had that like big breakout moment, right? But it's kind of like what you taught me, man. It's like, you know, sometimes you're gonna get a lot of no's in the industry, but if you look at it in a positive way of saying like, what would you say it was?
I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you just, you know, you're gonna get a lot of no's, you know, but you get that one yes, and it'll drive you forever.
So if you look at it as like, oh, I got to know, it's like, all right, well, 7 more to go,
that's
or
what it was.
6 more to go, you know. And
I
so
forgot who said that. It's like if you knew that you'd make it after your like 21st no, you'd be so excited when you got the first no. Like, I got 20 more.
Or the 20th, yeah.
So I'm on that countdown right now. Yeah, hopefully something great will happen.
Well, I mean, you know, you just came here from this tour, and it reminds me of the shit that I've done. Like, you know, I've booked all those tours. Like, you're the one booking it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and you have to do it. I mean, you just came from a tour too, you know? So.
Tour life, dude.
Love it, though. You know, but my opinion is it can also break you. You don't want to. It looks so good to post online, like, look at my tour, you know, but you have to go out there and learn about it. But you can literally come back and go, holy shit, I'm broke. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you got to be
careful. That's where I'm at
right now. you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful. So anyway,
it's definitely something to be done intentionally. Yeah. With purpose, you know,
like I'm only going to play maybe 2 shows this year on purpose. You know, I need to back off and do other things. So,
well, Rafa, it sounds like you have a set that you dialed in for this tour. And as the tour goes on, it gets sharper and sharper. Was that your experience this last Sweet Boy tour you went on?
Yeah. Well, the first show that we did, which is the one that I put up on YouTube, that was the first show we did, and that room was just so amazing. It was so hot that I was just like, I'm going to go up and do stuff that I haven't done very much. And then I just, at the end of the night, it went so well that I was like, I'm going to work on this for the rest of the tour. And that's just kind of how it went. But yeah, it always starts kind of like a loose thing. And then by the end of the tour, you come out so much tighter on the material.
Totally.
I gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was great.
Are you, I mean, it costs money. So, I mean, yeah, I'm just curious, are you going to try and like produce your own special?
I just got an offer actually to do my first 30-minute album.
Congrats.
I think I want to do audio only. I don't know if I want to film it. I still haven't decided, but this place that I when I started comedy, there's this great place in Long Beach, Harvell's.
Yeah.
And every Tuesday they do like a comedy and burlesque show, and I had to go and wait for like months for this.
In San Diego?
In Long Beach.
Yeah, Harvell's. Yeah, dude. I've been there.
Yeah. So
Unless I was there, I was on mushrooms. It was great.
So I started when I started out, I would go like every Tuesday, and it took me months for the producer to finally put me up. And then once he finally put me up, he'd let me cold open every Tuesday. And now I still go back every once in a while and perform there. And last time I was there, he's like, I'm kind of taking over Harvell's. And what I want to do is I want to start filming a lot of comedy and specials and stuff here.
Cool.
And he offered me like, if you want to do like a 30-minute. And so, yeah,
You gotta,
I wouldn't have to like, I already have people that would be willing to do it for free. Cause like I have really good fucking friends.
Totally.
So that's an option, but I don't know.
well, you got to start putting out content, you know?
Yeah.
You have to. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome. Harvell's is a cool spot.
Yeah. It's a great room. I would love to record in there.
For the listeners who don't know, what's a cold open? What does that mean?
A cold open is when you're the first person to go up on the show, and the room is not warmed up yet for comedy or anything. So they're pretty much shoving you out there to crack the room open. They're putting you up there to see if you can open the room. Yeah, open it up. You know, make it warm. Make it so that way the rest of the comics are like the audience is already in the mindset of like, okay, this is comedy.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
So a lot of the clubs, like the Improv, is pretty cool about they'll post their lineups every night, and you'll see like cold open, and it's someone, and then the host comes up. So like before the host even comes on, you have a comic going up there to do 5 minutes to break open the room.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah,
I feel like that it's there's a lot of dues to be had in comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm the cold open guy. All right, now I'm the host. Or, you know.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah. But anyway, just do that question, man.
It reminds me of it's like comedy sometimes can happen in strange places. Like like I went to this farmer's market and some guy was just like, you know, no one's listening, but everyone's walking by, and he's like, yeah, guys, nothing like comedy at 4 p.m. on a Thursday out here, you know? It's like cold opening at the DMV. Like, it sounds tough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
I've done some pretty rough gigs.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me into my next question, which is, how do you try out new material? Do you work on it a lot beforehand, or do you just throw it at the wall and see what sticks at the Comedy Store? I know some comedians will like monologue their stuff solo, and some don't operate that way. They'll just like hop up on the mic and like you said, more conversational. Is that kind of how you approach things?
I used to be very meticulous about writing. I'd sit down and I'd like write out every line, and then I would highlight like the point and the premise, and like I would have it very like I had my own key where I would, you know, kind of put it next to it, and I would write it out. But after the pandemic, when I came back, because I took a year off out of respect, I didn't know what to do.
Totally.
And like all the stuff was like outside or on Zoom, and I just didn't have any interest in doing that. I just don't think that that's the proper setting for comedy.
Farmers markets, yeah.
But yeah, when I came back, dude, I don't record my sets anymore, like the audio. I don't put pen on paper. If anything, if I do make a set list, I'll put it like a track listing on the back of an album, just the name of the joke, just so I can. And but my process as of right now in San Diego is I will, if I have a new idea, I will go up at the Madhouse open mic.
Oh,
yeah.
And I'll work it out there first. And then if that works in there, then I'll move it to Tuesday nights, the open mic potluck friends and family show. So I'll do
at the Comedy Store.
At the Comedy Store in La Jolla. Yeah, and then I'll work that out for a few weeks. And if that's doing good, then I'll do it on Best Of, which is our Thursday showcase where I get like longer time. And then once it works on a few Best Ofs, then I'll put it on shows where I'm like booked on.
Cool.
So like that's kind of my process, is like that's why it takes a few months for me to like polish something out. But once I get it dialed in, then I start busting it out on shows and stuff like that.
Nice.
But I feel like because I'm so obsessive about it that when I record my audio sets, I will sit and listen to them the next day, like over and over, to the point that I hate my material, and then I'll scrap things before I even give it a chance to flourish. So I stopped doing that, and I feel so present on stage with the audience, and I feel like there's a connection there where I'm not just going up there and being a robot and doing what's in my notebook. You know, I'm going up and talking to the audience.
Work in the room, they say.
Yeah.
Right? That's awesome,
If
man.
that makes sense. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, totally. Yeah, I think I've seen your set a couple times, and I definitely got that vibe. You were killing it at the Troubadour, man.
Oh, thank you.
I don't want to give away your bits, but there was one that had everybody rolling.
Which one? Just doesn't matter.
I think it was a little quip about Biden, actually.
Oh yeah. No, it's such a sideline too. It's not even.
Yeah, it
totally.
wasn't even the main punchline. It was a setup to a joke, I think, about how old your grandpa was. And you just threw that little line in there, and just the crowd, like LA, was just like, "That's fucking funny."
Yeah.
So,
And that's a fun line for me because when I'm on tour and stuff, there's places where that won't hit, and then you'll be in the next town and it hits super hard. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you got to just take the chance on it. But it's not a big deal because that's not the point of the joke. It's just a reference to something, so that way people have an image in their head in context to what I'm talking about.
I never understood this at all. Like when you see all over Instagram stuff too, like when a heckler gets so out of their mind, you know what I mean? There's this girl the other day, like I forgot, it blew up online. Like this person literally threw a beer at her.
Oh yeah, I know.
That? And she picked it up and she chugged it.
And now she's headlining everywhere because of that.
Video.
Yeah.
But you're just like, why? Like I was in Houston. What a boring town. I was there for doing Boone's Bourbon stuff, and Craig Conant, Conant, he was doing the Troubadour too. Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, I'm in town. I was like, I'm gonna come see your show. And literally, like, this drunk lady was just like screaming at him. At one point, he got pissed. He's like, can someone, like, you know, it's just, I don't, like, you paid a ticket to go see a comedian, and then you're gonna like heckle him. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you have crazy stories.
I think that, I mean, I do, but I think that what's wrong right now is like, you know, everyone's uploading their crowd work reel or their heckle reel. So and working at a comedy club, I will hear people in line being like, oh, I can't wait to heckle so I can end up in my favorite comics like fucking Instagram feed. So in a way, it's kind of training audiences to be worse. Like it's kind of a deterrent, you know, and like
everybody wants their 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah, they want to be included. They want to be a part of it somehow. And they think that by heckling or interrupting the show and having the comic be mean to them or whatever, they feel a part of the show.
It's like they won.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so it's really a bad incentive. Like, another thing too that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it drives me freaking crazy, is that there's a lot of open micers who will film their sets in an open mic, like where there's 4 or 5 people, and it's just really bad comedy, and then they'll sponsor it on Instagram. They'll put money into distributing and getting it out as far as possible, and then you'll have people who see that and then go, "Oh, I don't want to go see comedy." You know what I mean? Because like it's like, "Oh, this is crap. Like this is not good," and it's just littered. It's so saturated on Instagram and you know the internet right now with all of these people trying to be like trying to get viral or whatever the hell it is.
It's just like music, you know. There's a lot of bad music out there, you know, and people just post stuff, and then like I see ads all the time, and I'm just like, why would you put that?
Yeah,
up,
how are you? Yeah.
Or there's a difference too. There's literally actual artists, and then there's Instagram musicians where it's like that one guy, I hate him, dude. He's like a very pretty looking boy. He's got big teeth, but he's just like shredded, but he's like smiling at the camera, and I just want to like vomit when I see it. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about? He looks like a Guitar Center kid, just like shredded. I don't. And I'm just like, you found it funny.
My attack, my like plan of attack when I have a heckler is that I will ask them questions and get them to talk as much as possible, because when they realize that they're bombing in front of that audience, then that's when you get them. That's when you get the power back in the room, because the more they talk, they're gonna say something dumb, and then you'll have like, and then you can just lay into them, and then you get the power back in the room, and it shuts them up and it teaches them like, oh, I'm not good at this.
Like, shut up.
Yeah,
and the crowd comes back on your side.
Yeah. I just did a show on Friday night, and I was talking about LSD, and I was like, oh, LSD's a 12-hour drug, and this guy in the back booth just yelled out 16 hours. And I was like, that guy's on acid right now. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know what else to... I was just like, wow. And then he was just like, I've once been on... once it was like 36 hours. And I was like, well, buddy, enjoy your trip. Anyway, back to jokes. Fucking...
Yeah, time is an illusion.
Yeah, cool, man. You know?
So it's just you got to get the power back in the room. Totally. And like... Dude, it's so funny. Sometimes you'll hear, like, someone will heckle, and then the comic will hand them the mic, and it's like, you just lost as a comedian, because now they have all the power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You should never fight with someone with a microphone.
Yeah.
They will win every time.
Yeah.
Or they should win every time.
Yeah. But it's a learning curve too. I mean, I like when I first started going on the road, I'd have like 20 minutes or whatever. I would do 15 minutes of jokes, and the last 5 minutes I would work on crowd work just to get, Sharp. And I'm always in a new place, so it's easy to be like, hey, what do you guys do here for fun? Open up an audience, totally. Like dialogue kind of thing. But it's a muscle, and it's just something that you work, and after a lot of failure, like you learn how to deal with that shit really easily. Totally.
There's a lot of comedians who are really like skillful at, controlling that situation and handling it nicely and turning up a negative into a positive. And that makes me think, like, we were driving up here and we were talking about our favorite comedians and people we admire for different reasons. What are some of the qualities that you admire in comedians that you look up to? And maybe who are some of those comedians?
My favorite comic right now that's contemporary and working is Chad Daniels. He's not a household name, but ask any headliner about Chad Daniels and they'll tell you he's one of the best in the industry. Cool. He's what I admire about him is he's aggressively smart on stage, and every word that he chooses and every line, it's very well thought out. And if anyone debates him on it or like heckles or whatever, he can make you feel real dumb about it, because he goes, I chose those words very carefully. And I did them, with intention of being funny, not to be offensive or whatever. And I really like that because, like I said, like I do certain things, like where I'm talking about Joe Biden for a quick second, and it's not the point of the joke, and then people will get offended by that, and then I can just be like, you're missing the whole point here.
Yeah. Talk about my grandpa.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I really like that quality about it, and but I like storytellers. So like I like Kreischer and Segura and those are all like great people, and I just admire like how they can just be so open and vulnerable on stage. Like you mentioned earlier, like that's kind of, I dig that so much, and I think that it's cool because I don't think comedy has even reached its in the iteration that it is now, like 100 years. Right, it's still a pretty new art form. Yeah, and I think that the fact, like, if I were to go up and do the jokes that I'm doing now in the 50s, I would end up arrested. You know what I mean? There's no way. So I think that we've finally reached a point where we can talk about things on stage in front of a mass group of people, where before we couldn't do that. Totally. So I think that there's a lot of power in that, and I want to capitalize on it.
Nice, man. Yeah. When it's the date you moved to Austin? The 3rd?
The 3rd of March.
March 3rd. Yeah. You got any clubs already lined up? I had because on this last tour we ended in Austin, so I got to do a bunch of cool shows and gigs, and I got to network a lot, and a lot of people hit me up and we're just like, hey, whenever you make it into town, hit me up and we'll set shit up. So like I have things lined up, but I don't have anything booked yet because I just don't know what my life's going to be like when I first get into town. I kind of want to settle for a second before I start picking up gigs and running around. Well, on that note, the Boone's is there. Let's figure something out. Like, it's very well in Austin. So you want to do a little shot ski?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I'm good.
This is the biggest bottle to swig out of, by the way.
Someone's got to drive out of here.
I feel like I'm going to pour too much into my mouth.
All right, hold on. We got to get the... Oh, that's a good sound. Oh, man.
Little Boone's ASMR. You know what I mean?
That's good. All right, cheers.
There you go. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, man. Yerba mate, the drink of my people.
Oh, that's a good promo pick right there.
Is this really? Is this a Brazilian tea?
Yeah, the Brazilian country is on the.
Oh my God!
This jet fuel that you fucking pedaled.
Yeah,
God,
that I pedal. I just no food. Oh my God! There you go. Boone's Bourbon.
We did a mini shot last night. I almost threw up in your sink.
Yeah, I know. I found those mini bottles that my mom put on the Christmas tree as ornaments. Was so funny. Woo! All right, man. Cheers. There you go.
Wet the whistle, huh? Little how do you do? Is that what you call it?
Little how do you do?
Little how do you do?
Tyler always says,
I'll be at the bar. Like, you guys want to how do you do? You know. Maybe we'll go there tonight. $7,000 downtown has the Boone's Bourbon. So.
Yeah. Go drink your Boone's from.
Hey, that's mine. You know, shut up, dude. You know. Anyway,
give me a bottle of my stuff.
Kick this fucker out of here. All right, next question. Let's go.
Rafa, what's the most surprising part about this industry you're in? Being a comedian, what is something that you did not expect 6 years ago when you started?
How dysfunctional everyone you're surrounded by is. You know what I mean? There's like in comedy. There is so many people who
I've learned that from you.
Yeah, there's so many people who you're around them and you go, how do you how are you this way? And you think that it's fine, you know? Because, like, I'm a dysfunctional person, but not to the point where, like, I'm a detriment to my own career. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people burn bridges, and they're thinking on impulse. They're not seeing the long game, you know? They're just very, like, and it just baffles me how many people are delusional, arrogant, you know, who just, they don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
They want to, they still think that people are going to come and find you and you're going to get discovered. And like, but I think you got to go out there and make your own success. And a lot of people don't want to put in that work. And and then it's just, they sit around and they complain and they bitch and they talk a bunch of shit about other people who they're comparing themselves to. And it's just, you're getting in your own way, you know? And I thought that, I thought funny people before I did comedy were like, I know that we talk about like pretty gnarly things, but I didn't think it was like as gnarly as it actually is.
Yeah, it's pretty narcissistic, and then it's you know, just so depressing.
Yeah,
and it's like, dude, you gotta overcome it. You know, music's the same way, man. You know how many musicians are the same way? They're like, oh,
it's
pretty similar.
Operate on a shock value, and I feel like comedy operates on this like super duper honesty, or at least a lot of comedy does, like being so honest that it's like, wow, that's hilarious. I was be scared to say that, but you just said it, you know, we were all thinking it. But then it might, you know, people might lean into that too much. I appreciate that you have longevity in your mind though, where you're talking about, like, I think you told me in the car, like, yeah, first 3 years, that's just you getting started. 6 years, that's when you really hit your stride. 10 years, that's when you start
finding your voice, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's true with music too. So that's I appreciate that you have that mindset.
I'll be honest, man. It's like, I feel like in my career, because I just been, you know, we've all been hustling with everything I have going on, not to like boast myself up. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I just now started. You know what I mean? Like, things are starting to kind of start happening.
Leveled up.
And now it's like, all right, now I have to really work. You know what I mean? But I've been doing it since I was like 33, so 16. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean?
There's levels to all of this. Yeah. And then you get these like insights every year where you pick your battles more intelligently on stage or off stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, and here's another thing that I've noticed over just the last 6 years, that a good comedy audience, they'll know if you're selling them something. You know what I mean? If you're not being honest, like you were saying, like, they'll know that you're putting one over on them, and then they just don't fuck with you.
You know,
they shut down immediately. They're just like, no.
When you see a band, and this is my opinion, but LA does it a lot. And I think we talked about it before in another podcast, is they always play to clicks. You know, and Nashville does it too. You know what I mean? But like out here, it's like just a whole bunch of tracks. And it's just them kind of singing on top of it, and it's just like kind of linear. Yeah. And you can see people, it's like, it's not authentic, and they're just kind of tuned out, like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah, they're not present in the moment. They're robots. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to pull one over on you, and you can just kind of see it, that they're like really trying to get you.
Totally.
It's weird in music and in comedy when a band isn't trying, like Radiohead isn't trying to be the coolest band out there. And in them not trying to be the coolest band out there,
they're the coolest band out there.
And it's the same with comedians. Like
absolutely.
When we went to Jam in the Van for their comedy night before the first show we did there.
Yeah.
I think we just went for a random night. Jeremy Piven, Craig T. Anderson showed up, all these famous guys. But there was one cat who I'm forgetting his name, but he was like, hey, everybody, I know you don't care about my career. And I don't really care if you dig this, but I'm going to pull out my phone and here's some funny notes I wrote. And like him almost not caring about the reception made it be received that much more.
I remember that.
You know.
And that was a cool time, man. Those Jam in the Van ones during the pandemic when we were sponsoring it, it was like the special thing. Like you saw all these comedians, in my opinion, from like, that was 2021, right? No, that was 2022. That was a year ago. Right? No, it was 2021.
Yeah, it was 21 for sure.
And I'm just saying, the cool thing is you see these comedians like Chrissy D and all these guys, and they were like just about to tip. And like, what's that guy? He's like he looks like a model. I think he's doing the Improv tonight. We're looking at it last night.
Matt Rife.
Like he was up there. And all of a sudden, like, I'm just, you know, I always look at business at a business way too. I'm like, their Instagram's not that big yet. And then they took off. And that was just a really cool moment that we were all hanging out at Jam in the Van. It was neat, man. Like, freaking Bill Burr showed up one night.
Yeah. With
100 people.
To work out. Yeah.
It's nuts.
And what is his name? Craig T. Anderson? Is that?
Craig Robinson?
Craig Robinson.
Yeah, the
Excuse
piano
me.
player?
I misspoke
Piano guy?
earlier.
Yeah, the guy from The Office?
He was drinking and playing piano,
Yeah.
and that was the most unhinged comedy I've
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
seen.
I know, dude. People were dancing.
Besides maybe Eric Andre, so unhinged.
Sure.
It
Yeah,
was
it's so
funny.
unhinged.
They were like giving him the red light, like you're done, and he was just like, "You're gonna have to take me off this stage,"
Yeah.
you know. He was playing silly songs. A couple tried to leave, and he was like, "Why are you leaving?" You know, like you silly bitch. You know, I don't know.
It was so good, man.
I think there's a magical moment in comedy when you stop doing what you think audiences will think is funny and you start doing what you think is funny.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like, I'm doing this for me. I don't give a fuck if you laugh. Like, I'm doing this because I think this is funny.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what I think is funny, you know? And then, so it's a magical moment.
It kind of shows more confidence, too, when you do that.
Like that 20 minutes I put up, the very last thing that I say on stage is pretty gnarly. And
It is. I won't ruin it.
yeah,
but
it's pretty gnarly. And I do that because when I say that and I look out at the people, it's a 50-50 of people laughing and then other people just shaking my head like,
Totally.
like, no, I'm not going there. I love that moment. That to me, and then I just go, all right, see you later. And then I get off stage, I leave them on that. And that's my favorite. That's my
great.
favorite thing.
That's awesome.
Is that what you think some bits hit and some don't? Because it's like you're like, you know, hey, like, don't you think this is funny? Rather than like, hey, what the fuck's up with all these blades on razors? Do you really need 9 blades to shave your fucking face, you know?
Well, I think the first one comes out of fear, and the second one, the latter, is out of love. Like when you're doing what you think people will think is funny, you're afraid that you're going to bomb. So you're trying to find whatever is going to like get them. But when you start doing things that you think is funny, you're doing that out of love. You know what I mean? So like, there's a big difference there. And like I said, good audiences, like they can smell the fear and the desperation of a comic on stage.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You can smell it. So, Rafa, how was this last national tour you went on? And did you produce and book that yourself? Like, what was the big lesson? How was that experience for you?
It was great. It's kind of funny. I'll try to say this as briefly as possible. I was working with a tour manager before the first like 3 or 4 tours that I did. And then I had a buddy who was moving to Seattle, and he was just like, hey, I'll pay for all the gas, but I'd love to do shows on the way up. So I hit up a bunch of connections, and I booked a tour, like Pacific Northwest tour, and the tour manager blocked me on all social media and everything and dropped me and doesn't want to work with me.
Why?
Because I booked a brewery, and he's like a brewery winery tour guy, and he goes, that's my thing, and then he blocked me on everything.
Screw him.
And then talked a bunch of shit to all the other headliners that does his tours, and so I got blacklisted from this thing, which in hindsight has been the best thing for me. Because then I had to be like, well, if I want a tour, I have to do this myself.
Totally.
So so that was the first tour that I booked to myself, was the Pacific Northwest, where I lost my tour manager.
Yeah.
And then this one, I hadn't done like a 2.5 week tour in a while, and I really wanted to get out on the road, and I thought that the best time, I was like, I want to start the year off on a good note, so I want to do this tour. So I started booking it in November. And I just through the Comedy Store and from doing the road multiple times in the last couple of years, like I had people that I'd met across the country who had offered me like, oh, if you're ever out here. And so I just I just went in and I hit up all those people and be like, hey, what can you do? I'm going to be in your town from this time to this time, and then just set it up. And so so I started booking in November, and the day we left for tour, I was still getting dates, still confirming dates while we were leaving.
Hustling, man.
But it was great, and it was a lot of fun. I brought 2 of my best buddies from San Diego along with me. The guy who I've asked to feature on the road, he's, in my opinion, the funniest comic in San Diego, and I wanted to give myself the challenge of having to follow him every night.
What's his name?
Joe Grillo. Shout out to Joe. Yeah, he in my opinion, whenever he's on stage, I run into the room to see what he's working on, kind of thing.
Cool.
So and he's he's a very humble guy. Like I asked him to headline one time, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm not a headliner." You know what I mean? But
wow.
I think he is, and so I really had to like convince him to come on this tour, and he finally agreed, and it was awesome. It was one of the best tours, but one of the best crews that I've been out on the road with.
That's cool.
And we were so lucky that the people, like we got to we did Central California, Chicago, and Austin, and like in Chicago, like we stayed in a comic house. with people out there, and they put us up. And then in Austin as well, we stayed at another comic house, and it was just great being around people of like minds in different places and having them show us their city and their scene and stuff.
Totally.
I got a lot of foot indoors on this trip. You know, like I got to do like the Laugh Factory. I got to do Comedy Bar in Chicago. I got to do all these cool clubs and indie shows. So I consider it a big success in my opinion. And then now, like I said, when I go out to Austin, like I'm already set up out there. Cool. But yeah, the Sweet Boys tour was sweet. It was very sweet.
It looked good.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
I had an absolute blast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet boy.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's cool. Now you work. Now you're leaving, but you've been working at the La Jolla Comedy Store. And I've told you this before, but just a cool mention on the podcast. Like my dad used to be the door guy there,
Right? Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago. So, the first time I went there was because of you, and I think it was it Ryan Sickler? I think.
Yeah, it was my birthday.
Yeah, it was your birthday.
It was my birthday, and I was opening up for Sickler. Yeah.
I was a little drunk, and I just kept being like, "Doubt," and you go, "Shut up, I'm listening." It was just really funny. I was like, "Oh my bad."
That's awesome.
It's such a fun time. And now you've been going down there and seeing shows a lot.
I have, yeah. I see Rafa there, and we'll go watch. I saw a couple of my favorite headliners. A couple of the shows Rafa, you had actually opened up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about working at the Comedy Store is that they'll put you up for 5 minutes in front of a sold-out show and let you do your thing and figure out what you got.
Yeah, Mark Ellis, who was on the podcast before, he did the LA store. So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
So comedy has such a wide range of places where it can happen, just like music.
Mm-hmm.
But and we were talking about this on the car ride up here. I wanted to ask you on air, what's your best gig that you've had, and what's your worst gig?
Oof. Best gig, man. I gotta say, like, probably that 20-minute set that I put up, like that place that we did in I can't say where it is, but that place that we did in the Central Coast here in California, that was one of the best rooms I've ever been in, and I had a lot of fun on stage. Yeah, it's such a fleeting feeling though. You know what I mean? Because like you'll have like one of the best gigs, and then like a week will go by, and then it's like, oh no, this is the best gig.
Yeah.
You know, it's so tough. So worst gig I ever had, you'll probably get a kick out of this. It was a week after the Troubadour. Like
What
to
a
the
high,
day,
what a high to the low.
to the day. Yeah. My buddy hit me up and he goes, "Hey, my 10-year reunion for my high school is coming up. We're looking for entertainment. Would you be willing to come and do comedy?" And so I went to my buddy's 10-year high school reunion. I took the train up there with him, and then we got an Uber. It was in Compton.
Did you get paid?
No,
Oh,
it was in Compton. Which I thought was like interesting. Like when he
Totally.
goes, "Hey, it's a high school reunion in Compton," I was like, I gotta see what this is all about, right? So we go and we show up, and it's like this dilapidated like house thing. It's like an event center that you can rent out. Mm-hmm. We show up, and the stage is pallets that someone stole from Ralph's. It must have been from like a grocery store.
You told me this.
And then there was like 2 big storage containers behind it, which was like the backdrop. And I walk in and I make introductions with the person putting it on, and she hands me light gear and she goes, "Hey, can you go set this up by the stage?"
You're not even getting
And
paid.
I was like, I didn't want to rock the boat, so I was like, sure. And I went and set it up, and then I went back inside and I was like, "Hey, can I get a beer?" And she was like, "You can have the one, but I can't just hook you up all night." And I was like, I just paid money to come out here.
Yeah.
To perform for free.
Yeah.
And I just did manual labor for you, and you're not going to give me more than a beer. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the entertainment business.
So she was like, it's going to be comedy, and then we have rap, and then we have like metal bands playing. And
What a lineup.
and it's just in a parking lot. You know what I mean? And 30 people showed up, and they were all people who were performing on the show. So no one came out to their own high school reunion kind of thing. And
That's awesome.
the person putting it on comes up and says, "Hey, so the rappers have to go to work after this, so we're gonna put them up first, and they're gonna do like 15 minutes." The rap group did about 45. They did their whole album, and like where they just like plug it into like
they just
sing to it, you know, or rap to it or whatever. I'd eaten a lot of edibles because I thought I was going to be off stage by then. And I was like, this is a shitty hang. So I'm going to eat some edibles now. And then by the time I get off stage, so I almost had a heart attack before I went up because I was like starting to fucking I was really high. And she introduces me. She goes, "Oh, this is our stage manager." And I literally said, "You mean your palette manager?" Like to her face, dude. I was really rude.
Wow.
And he was just like, yeah, man, like what's your name? And I told him my name. He's like, do you have an Instagram? And I was like, yeah. And then he like looked me up and he goes, oh, you seem legit. Like just by looking at my Instagram. And then he's like, so what do you want me to say when I bring you up? I was like, man, just go up there and say tours all over the country and then just say my name and bring me up.
Yeah.
This guy goes on stage and he goes, this guy coming up to the stage, we're going to do comedy now. This guy coming to the stage, I've known him forever, man. He's like, we're really, really good friends. And I was like, oh, here we fucking go.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
And then he goes, no, I'm just kidding. I met him like 5 minutes ago, but I checked out his Instagram. It seems legit. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the worst intro of all time. And then he didn't say my name. He forgot my name. So he just goes, all right. And he pointed at me in the crowd. And I thought he was going to say my name after that. So like an asshole, I turn around to the 30 people in this parking lot and I waved like, yeah, that's me. I'm about to go up. And he just like looked at me and he was like, and then I walked up there and I didn't do any material. I just shat on the high school reunion. I literally went up and I was like, a lot of dudes. You know what I mean? Like, I was looking around, a lot of dudes.
I appreciate that.
And did a bunch, like,
good for you.
Yeah. And it was such a humbling experience because I was like, last week I was at the Troubadour in front of like hundreds of people, like doing like a prestigious, and now I'm here doing a free gig at a high school reunion where there's fucking nobody, you know?
Yeah, I would, we would go, I would bring you on the road, some cool things when we were in Charleston, and we'd have like a killer weekend. We'd come back and then I'd be playing at Republic doing Ain't No Sun. I would just be like, oh. Or like play the Music Farm, you know what I mean? And then like, but I still had to make money. And sometimes the next day it'd be like at a Sunday brunch. Like, dude, I just played at the Music Farm. You know what I mean? It does humble you out, man. So
it does, yeah. Well, it sounds like with that worst gig, you made some lemonade out of the sour lemons they gave you. So good.
Yeah, no sugar, dude.
yeah.
Just straight lemon.
Yep.
Dude, comedy, here's one thing I'd like to say, because it's like music, you can like write a song and then like work the song for your whole career because it's a good song. But comedy is kind of like ever evolving, and like as soon as your bit flies out, like it's almost like you got to start working on another one. I mean, music's kind of like that, but comedy seems a little even more transient. Like
totally,
like, you know, Jerry Seinfeld can't tour on one joke for 40 years. Like he's got to always be putting out new stuff.
But some people do. Some people have the same act from the 80s, and they're still touring it.
That's true.
How about those Walkmans? yeah, you know.
But the ones that are really successful are doing hours. They're making sure they got a new special a year. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know who I've heard is really talented at always working on new material on the mic and is Chris Rock.
Oh, yeah.
He apparently is like one of the hardest working comedians, always has a new something going on. Every time he's at the store or something like that, he'll just be workshopping brand new material, and all the other comedians are like you said with your buddy, got to get in the room and watch it. You know,
I'm a huge fan of his little brother, Tony Rock.
Okay.
Honestly, like the hardest I've laughed watching a comedy show in a long time was watching Tony Rock at the Laugh Factory in San Diego. And that guy, I mean, every time I've seen him, it's just, this is new. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's something, especially for me, it's tough because it's stories. And like, once people have heard a story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they kind of know everything about it. So, but that's why I don't have like a super big online presence, is because I don't want to burn that material until like I put it out on something official.
Totally.
That's why I'm really like trying to feel out whether I want to do this 30 minutes, you know, for at Harvell's. Because there's some jokes there's some stories that I have from when I started doing comedy that I still have in my repertoire, you know? But I'm like ready to burn it. I'm ready to like put it out and then just like, that's it. Like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Totally. Well, you know, you should document it. Like the record that you're working on now, that you're going to go to Florida with?
Yeah, I'm going to work with George Spitz.
You were like...
from Slightly Stupid.
You're like, dude, I'm not going to... let me pick that name you just dropped. No, I'm just kidding. You were like, I'm not going to put this out, you know? And I was like, you should put it out. And then you know, because it's also a timeline. You know, you just probably just want a better, cooler mix on it. Better, you know what I mean? But then you comment, dude, I'm releasing it. I was like, good. You know what I mean? Because you're your own worst critic. You know what I mean? Like, there's songs that I should probably take down, but I was 21. They were like songs that did really well for me. You know what I mean? So I keep them up. And
the sky is the limit with creation too. There's no ceiling on, like, all right, that's as many songs as I'll ever write. Like, no. That's as many jokes as I'll ever write. Like, that's never a sentence that's actually true. So,
and if you get like a real fan, not like just your friends and family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They will you know, it's like when you fall in love with an artist, you go back after you might fall in love with like their fourth album. Like, who is this artist? And all of a sudden you go, dude, let me check out the rest of their stuff. And you go back to the beginning, you're kind of like, wow, like listen to this guy when he was starting out.
That is true. I listen to some bands that I love, and some of their first records are pretty bad. But because I love that artist,
you have an appreciation. Go, they were starting out.
I'll rock that whole album just to know where they came from, and some of them are pretty good.
Totally.
And even like comedians like Chappelle is like an industry great, but you know, his stand up now is a lot more refined. It's very different from his early stuff. You know, his early stuff is a little bit more like
it was like quirky.
Wow.
Yeah, you know. Hey y'all. Now he's like, hey guys, I'm Dave Chappelle. Yeah, I know what you mean, for sure. Man. Well, let's get more questions in before we wrap it up.
What are some collaborations you'd like to happen this next year with moving to Austin, or just in general in the next 5 years? Some people you look up to that you think you would like, man, I'd love to go on tour with this guy. I'd love to just have a cup of coffee with so-and-so.
Yeah, man, I don't really have much on that one.
It's okay.
It's kind of like I really would like to do, I want to get in front of headliners and like showcase. That way I hope someone would pick me up and take me on the road with them. I'm not really particular about like who that is. But yeah, I definitely want to work more with more established artists, because I think that they can show me the ropes on things that I don't know how to do, totally. Like touring and, you know, booking and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that, and there's like a lot of industry in Austin now that are looking for talent that's like undiscovered, that they don't want, you know, like the jaded LA or New York kind of thing. Totally. So yeah, I just want to keep working, man, honestly. Like, I just want to stay busy and keep working on it. Yeah, I don't really have any collaborations in mind that I necessarily want to do.
Well, that's Rafa, cool. I think you stand alone in your craft, and I love your set, man. I'm really excited for the community you're about to build in Austin. Yeah. And where can we follow up with you online? Yeah.
Instagram, Beef Strogan Raf. It was my nickname in high school. It's a long story. But that's... Once you type in beef STR, it immediately pops up. So it's like the perfect handle.
That's cool.
But yeah, that's Instagram. I do have that YouTube. I just started a YouTube channel, and that 20-minute set is up. If you guys want to go check it out, that's Rafa Camargo Comedy on YouTube. Nice. I don't have TikTok or Twitter or anything like that. So yeah, you can find me on those things.
Nice. Well, you know, let's. Shall we do one more?
Yeah, let's do another one. Yeah, sure.
James?
He's old school, ladies and gentlemen.
James?
I'm cool, man.
What do you mean by old school?
Oh, no TikTok.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
All right.
You know, while you guys are taking this little shot here, I was just on tour with a reggae band, and we played a show in San Luis Obispo, and we were getting some tacos, and...
Jesus Christ.
Long story short, this guy was... talking a whole lot of fluff, and he happened to mention that he was a comedian. And I was like, cool, can't wait to see your set. He really was not that.
Was he going up or something, or?
No, we were just eating tacos, and he really wanted to talk to us.
About comedy.
No, he just wanted to hear his own voice, I think. But I mentioned that I knew an awesome comedian named Rafa Camargo, and he was like, oh, I think I've heard of him. So it was very cool to just run into a random person at a taco shop, and I was like, how did you hear about this guy Rafa? And he was like, I think I've seen him on YouTube. So your brand new YouTube channel is like gaining other comedians' respect. So.
I played his show in San Luis. That was where that first show on the tour was. Oh. So I'm pretty sure that he found it because of the people that were associated that were helping plug it.
Cool. So, St. Louis is a cool town.
Yeah.
I used to do some
cool
they
fuck out there.
Yeah, totally. And the barbecue's great.
It's a good old time.
Well, brother, dude, we love you.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Yeah, we're going to send you off properly tonight, but wish the best in Austin. We should definitely, once you're ready... You know, we could start small. Maybe we could do some Boone's Bourbon stuff with you out there.
Yeah, no,
it would help us regardless. You know.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm going to start when I get it. Like me and my roommate are going to set up a comedy show. We're going to run a comedy show out there. So
just
if
like you did at Bolt Brewery.
I mean, that's the first place I performed in San Diego.
You know what's really funny? Before we go, I was down there doing this, and I was kind of celebrating, and I got like a little nicer hotel because I just like kind of made some money, I guess, and. Newly single man, and Rafa's like, dude, come see my show. I went to the wrong Bolt Brewery, and I rode up on a scooter, and I was like, well, and it was really busy, and it's downtown, the gas lamp, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go back, and I am fucking drunk. And because I obviously had a drink there, and I was drinking that all during the day too because I was working the Boone's Bourbon stuff. And so I take a scooter back and I pass the train station. And when I was like really broke, and I would come to San Diego with my family from Charleston, I would book like the Hotel Cafe, which I've been playing that for like almost 10 years. Or I might have played the Genghis Khan. I think that was my first one. Anyway, it doesn't matter, man. But I just saw the train station, and I literally had like, 'cause I was drunk, I had like a moment. I was like, remember those days, man? You were freaking hustling. And then I hit like the tram track, like
The rails, yeah.
And I went flying, dude, and like almost broke my hand, and so many people saw it, and like no one helped. They're just like, oh, and I was like, it was just so I was like so sober after that. It was just such a funny story, and I was like, hey, Rafa, I'm not gonna make the show, so that was fun, man.
He literally texted me like, hey, just fell off a scooter downtown trying to get it to your show. I'm not gonna make it. I think I broke my arm. And I was just like, well, have better days, bud. I don't know what to
say.
The demand for your comedy is so high, people are literally injuring themselves getting there. So take note, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, dude, be careful coming to a show.
We love you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.